Hello everyone, human reproduction. Let's study the subtopic parturition and the lactation. Yes, what is this parturition? The average duration of the pregnancy is about 9 months, which is called as the gestation period. And after the development of the embryo, the vigorous contraction of the uterus at the end of the pregnancy that causes the expulsion or the delivery of the fetus. And this process of the delivery of the fetus that is called as the parturition. The vigorous contraction that leads to the delivery of the baby that is called as the parturition, and the parturition is induced by the complex neuroendocrine mechanism. Why this parturition is called as complex neuroendocrine mechanism? Because the signals for parturition originate from the fully developed fetus and the placenta, which induce the mild uterine contraction and called fetal ejection reflex. So here, when the baby is fully developed, that and the placenta which induce the mild uterine contraction, that start the mild uterine contraction, and that is called as fetal ejection reflex. So this triggers when the mild uterine contraction start, which triggers the release of the oxytocin hormone from the maternal pituitary. The maternal pituitary which releases the oxytocin hormone, and the oxytocin hormone that act on the uterus. And this causes the uterine muscles, the stronger uterine contraction, which in turn stimulate the further secretion of the oxytocin. When the uterine contraction occurs, again it stimulates the pituitary and release of the oxytocin takes place, and that causes the stronger and the stronger contraction of the uterus. So this contraction that helps in the release of the expulsion of the baby from the mother's womb takes place. Okay, so this total process that is called as the neuroendocrine mechanism. So the very important, why the parturition is called as the neuroendocrine mechanism? Because the parturition that originate the signal that originate from the fetus and the placenta that causes the mild uterine contraction, and the mild uterine contraction that triggers the release of the oxytocin from the pituitary, and the uterine contraction, further uterine contraction that causes the release of the oxytocin from the maternal pituitary, that causes the expulsion of the baby from the mother's womb. So this process is called as the parturition. The stimulatory reflex between the uterine contraction and the oxytocin secretion continues, resulting in the stronger and the stronger contraction. This leads to the expulsion of the baby out of the uterus or the mother's womb through the birth canal, that is called as the parturition. That total process is called as the parturition. Soon after the infant is delivered, the placenta is also expelled out of the uterus. After the infant delivery, the placenta also expelled from the uterus. So this is about the parturition.